Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm excited to bring you a comprehensive breakdown of the New York Times bestseller book, Atomic Habits, by James Clear. In this video, I'll be giving you a summary of the book's principles and how you can apply them to your life to achieve your goals. Chapter 1, The Surprising Power of Atomic Habits. In this chapter, the author introduces the concept of atomic habits and how small changes can have a big impact on our lives. He explains that by focusing on the process of habit formation rather than just the outcome, we can create lasting change. The author also introduces the 4 laws of behavior change and explains how they can help us build good habits and break bad ones. The chapter begins by outlining the idea that small changes can lead to significant improvements in our lives. The author notes that our daily habits are a powerful force in shaping who we are, and that by focusing on improving these habits, we can create lasting change. He introduces the concept of atomic habits, which are small, incremental changes that are easy to implement and can lead to big results over time. The author then introduces the 4 laws of behavior change, which are the framework for building good habits and breaking bad ones. The first law is to make the habit obvious, which means making it easy to notice and remember. The second law is to make the habit attractive, which means linking it to a positive outcome or emotion. The third law is to make the habit easy, which means breaking it down into small, manageable steps. And the fourth law is to make the habit satisfying, which means rewarding ourselves for completing the habit. The author uses several examples throughout the chapter to illustrate these concepts, such as the story of James Clear, the author of the book, who was able to transform his life by focusing on small, atomic habits. The chapter concludes by emphasizing the power of atomic habits and how they can help us create lasting change in our lives. Chapter 2, How Your Habits Shape Your Identity, and Vice Versa. In this chapter, the author discusses the relationship between habits and identity. He explains that our habits are a reflection of our identity and that by changing our habits, we can change our identity. The author also introduces the concept of identity-based habits and explains how they can help us create lasting change. The chapter begins by exploring the idea that our habits are a reflection of who we are and that they shape our identity. The author notes that our habits are not just isolated behaviors, but rather a system of actions that define us as individuals. He explains that by changing our habits, we can change our identity and become the type of person we want to be. The author introduces the concept of identity-based habits, which are habits that are aligned with our values and beliefs. He notes that these types of habits are more likely to stick because they are connected to a deeper sense of purpose and meaning. The author provides several examples of identity-based habits, such as, I am a runner, or I am a writer, and notes that by adopting these identities, we are more likely to stick to the habits that support them. The chapter concludes by emphasizing the importance of aligning our habits with our identity and values. The author notes that by doing so, we can create lasting change and become the type of person we want to be. Chapter 3, How to Build Better Habits in 4 Simple Steps. In this chapter, the author explains the 4 laws of behavior change in more detail. He breaks down each law and provides examples of how to apply them to our lives. The author also introduces the concept of habit stacking, which is a powerful tool for building good habits. The chapter begins by revisiting the 4 laws of behavior change introduced in the first chapter. The author breaks down each law and provides examples of how to apply them to our lives. He explains that by making the habit obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying, we can create lasting change and build better habits. The author then introduces the concept of habit stacking, which is a powerful tool for building good habits. Habit stacking involves linking a new habit to an existing one, which makes it easier to remember and incorporate into our daily routine. The author provides several examples of habit stacking, such as doing a set of push-ups after brushing your teeth or meditating for 5 minutes after making your morning coffee. The chapter concludes by emphasizing the importance of breaking habits down into small, manageable steps and linking them to our existing routines. The author notes that by doing so, we can make it easier to build better habits and create lasting change in our lives. Chapter 4, The Man Who Didn't Look Right. In this chapter, the author shares a powerful story about a man who was wrongly accused of murder because he didn't look right. The story illustrates the concept of identity and how our perceptions of others can be shaped by our beliefs and biases. The author notes that by understanding our own biases, we can begin to overcome them and build better relationships with others. The chapter begins with the story of Willie Horton, a man who was wrongly accused of murder because he didn't fit the description of the real perpetrator. The author notes that our perceptions of others are often shaped by our beliefs and biases, and that this can have serious consequences. He explains that by understanding our own biases, we can begin to overcome them and build better relationships with others. The author then provides several examples of how our biases can influence our perceptions of others, such as race, gender, and appearance. He notes that by recognizing these biases, we can begin to challenge them and create a more inclusive and equitable society. The chapter concludes by emphasizing the importance of empathy and understanding in building better relationships with others. The author notes that by recognizing our own biases and striving to see others as individuals, we can create a more compassionate and just world. Chapter 5, The Best Way to Start a New Habit. In this chapter, the author explores the best way to start a new habit. He introduces the concept of habit formation and explains how to make it easier to start and stick to a new habit. The author also provides several tips and strategies for building better habits. The chapter begins by exploring the science of habit formation and how our brains are wired to seek out rewards. The author notes that by linking a new habit to a positive outcome, we are more likely to stick to it. He also explains that by starting small and gradually increasing the difficulty of the habit, we can make it easier to stick to in the long run. The author then provides several tips and strategies for building better habits, such as finding an accountability partner or creating a habit tracker. He notes that by making the habit visible and tracking our progress, we are more likely to stick to it. The chapter concludes by emphasizing the importance of starting small and celebrating our progress along the way. The author notes that by making the habit easy and rewarding ourselves for completing it, we can create lasting change and build better habits. Chapter 6, Motivation is Overrated, Environment Often Matters More. In this chapter, the author challenges the traditional notion that motivation is the key to success. He explains that our environment plays a much bigger role in shaping our behavior and that by changing our environment, we can make it easier to build better habits. The author also introduces the concept of environment design and provides several examples of how to apply it to our lives. The chapter begins by exploring the limitations of motivation and how it often fades over time. The author notes that by relying too much on motivation, we can set ourselves up for failure. He then introduces the concept of environment design, which involves shaping our surroundings to make it easier to build better habits. The author provides several examples of how environment design can be used to build better habits, such as creating a distraction-free workspace or placing healthy snacks at eye level. He notes that by making it easier to do the right thing, we are more likely to stick to our habits in the long run. The author also explores the concept of habit shaping, which involves designing our environment to encourage specific behaviors. He provides several examples of habit shaping, such as putting your phone in another room during meal times to encourage mindful eating or leaving your running shoes by the door to encourage exercise. The chapter concludes by emphasizing the importance of environment design in building better habits. The author notes that by changing our environment, we can make it easier to build better habits and create lasting change in our lives. Chapter 7, The Secret to Self-Control. In this chapter, the author explores the concept of self-control and how it can be developed through mindful awareness. He provides several strategies for improving self-control, such as practicing mindfulness and setting clear boundaries. The chapter begins by exploring the limitations of willpower and how it often fails us when we need it most. The author notes that by practicing mindfulness and becoming more aware of our thoughts and feelings, we can develop greater self-control. He also explains that by setting clear boundaries and avoiding temptation, we can make it easier to resist unhealthy habits. The author then provides several strategies for improving self-control, such as practicing meditation or mindfulness, setting clear goals and priorities, and avoiding triggers that lead to unhealthy habits. He notes that by becoming more aware of our thoughts and feelings, we can develop greater self-control and make better decisions. The chapter concludes by emphasizing the importance of mindfulness and self-awareness in building better habits. The author notes that by becoming more aware of our thoughts and feelings, we can develop greater self-control and make better decisions in our lives. Chapter 8: How to Make Good Habits Inevitable and Bad Habits Impossible. In this chapter, the author explores the concept of making good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible. He provides several strategies for creating a habit-friendly environment, such as reducing friction and increasing visibility. The chapter begins by exploring the power of our environment in shaping our behavior. The author notes that by making good habits easy and bad habits difficult, we can create a more habit-friendly environment. He also explains that by reducing friction and increasing visibility, we can make it easier to build better habits. The author then provides several strategies for creating a habit-friendly environment, such as simplifying our environment and reducing the number of decisions we have to make. He also suggests increasing our visibility of good habits and reducing our exposure to bad habits. The chapter concludes by emphasizing the importance of creating a habit-friendly environment in building better habits. The author notes that by making good habits easy and bad habits difficult, we can create an environment that supports our goals and helps us achieve lasting change. Chapter 9: The Cardinal Rule of Behavior Change. In this chapter, the author introduces the cardinal rule of behavior change, which is to make it satisfying. He explains that by linking a new habit to a positive outcome, we are more likely to stick to it in the long run. The chapter begins by exploring the power of immediate rewards in shaping our behavior. The author notes that by linking a new habit to a positive outcome, we can make it more satisfying and therefore more likely to stick to in the long run. He also explains that by finding ways to make the habit fun or enjoyable, we can create a positive association with the behavior. The author then provides several strategies for making habits more satisfying, such as finding a way to make the habit enjoyable or linking it to a reward. He notes that by finding ways to make the habit satisfying, we are more likely to stick to it in the long run and create lasting change in our lives. The author also explores the concept of habit tracking, which involves keeping track of our progress and celebrating our successes. He notes that by tracking our habits and celebrating our successes, we can create a positive feedback loop that reinforces the behavior and makes it more likely to stick. The chapter concludes by emphasizing the importance of making habits satisfying and celebrating our successes in building better habits. The author notes that by finding ways to make the behavior enjoyable and linking it to a positive outcome, we are more likely to stick to our habits and create lasting change in our lives. Chapter 10: How to Stick to Your Goals When Life Gets Crazy. In this chapter, the author explores the challenges of sticking to our goals when life gets busy and stressful. He provides several strategies for staying on track, such as planning for obstacles and focusing on small wins. The chapter begins by acknowledging that life can be unpredictable and stressful, making it difficult to stick to our goals. The author notes that by planning for obstacles and focusing on small wins, we can stay on track and make progress even in the midst of chaos. The author then provides several strategies for staying on track, such as breaking down goals into smaller, more manageable tasks, and focusing on progress rather than perfection. He also suggests building a support system of friends and family who can help us stay accountable and motivated. The chapter concludes by emphasizing the importance of staying flexible and adapting to changes in our lives while still keeping our goals in mind. The author notes that by planning for obstacles and focusing on small wins, we can stay on track and make lasting change in our lives even when life gets crazy. Chapter 11, The Truth About Talent, When Genes Matter and When They Don't. In this chapter, the author explores the role of genetics in talent and skill development. He provides several examples of how genetics can influence our abilities, but also notes that effort and practice play a crucial role in skill development. The chapter begins by acknowledging that genetics can play a role in our talents and abilities. The author notes that some people may have a natural advantage in certain areas due to their genes, but that effort and practice are still crucial for skill development. The author then provides several examples of how genetics can influence our abilities, such as in sports or music. He also notes that genetics can play a role in our personality traits, such as in our tendency towards introversion or extroversion. However, the author also emphasizes the importance of effort and practice in skill development. He notes that even those with a natural talent still need to put in the work to develop their skills and achieve their goals. The chapter concludes by highlighting the importance of effort and practice in skill development, and that while genetics can play a role, it is ultimately our actions and habits that determine our success. Chapter 12, The Myth of Discipline. In this chapter, the author challenges the idea of discipline as the key to success and instead suggests that building better habits is more effective for achieving lasting change. The chapter begins by exploring the limitations of discipline and willpower in achieving our goals. The author notes that while discipline can be helpful in the short term, it is not sustainable in the long run. The author then suggests that building better habits is a more effective approach for achieving lasting change. He notes that by making small, incremental changes in our behavior, we can create habits that will lead to long-term success. The author also explores the concept of identity-based habits, which involve aligning our habits with our values and identity. He notes that by focusing on who we want to become, we can create habits that are more meaningful and fulfilling. The chapter concludes by emphasizing the importance of building better habits and aligning our behavior with our values and identity. The author notes that by chapter 13, the inverse power of defaults. Habits are often formed by default, without conscious intention. In this chapter, Clear explores how defaults shape our behavior and how we can use them to our advantage in creating good habits. Defaults are the preset options or settings that require no action to activate. They are the path of least resistance, and we often follow them without thinking. Clear argues that we can use defaults to our advantage by creating a good default option for our habits. One example of using the power of defaults is in choosing what we eat. Clear cites a study where participants were asked to choose between healthy and unhealthy snacks. When the healthy option was the default choice, 67% of participants chose the healthy snack. When the unhealthy option was the default, only 33% chose the healthy snack. This shows the power of defaults in shaping our behavior. Clear suggests that we can use the power of defaults to create good habits by setting up our environment to make the desired behavior the default option. For example, if you want to read more, you could make it the default by leaving a book on your bedside table or by carrying a book with you wherever you go. Another way to use defaults to create good habits is by changing the default setting of an existing behavior. For example, if you want to watch less TV, you could change the default setting of your TV to be turned off or unplugged. This makes it less convenient to watch TV and more convenient to do something else. Clear also suggests that we can use the power of defaults to eliminate bad habits. For example, if you want to stop checking your phone first thing in the morning, you could change the default setting of your phone to be in airplane mode until a certain time. By understanding the power of defaults, we can design our environment to support our desired habits and make the desired behavior the easiest option. This can lead to lasting behavior change and the creation of good habits. Chapter 14, The Role of Family and Friends in Shaping Your Habits. In this chapter, Clear explores the role that family and friends play in shaping our habits. He argues that our social environment can have a profound impact on our behavior and the habits we form. Clear cites research that shows that our social networks can influence a wide range of behaviors, from smoking to exercise to obesity. He also notes that we are more likely to adopt the habits of those around us, both good and bad. Clear suggests that we can use the power of social influence to our advantage by surrounding ourselves with people who have the habits we want to adopt. For example, if you want to start running regularly, you could join a running group or find a running partner who will hold you accountable. Clear also notes that it can be challenging to break bad habits if those around us continue to engage in them. He suggests that we can use social pressure to our advantage by making our habits public and enlisting the support of others. This can provide motivation and accountability to stick to our desired habits. Finally, Clear emphasizes the importance of supportive relationships in creating lasting behavior change. He suggests that we can strengthen our relationships by practicing empathy, being supportive of others, and communicating clearly about our needs and goals. Overall, Clear highlights the importance of our social environment in shaping our behavior and the habits we form. By understanding the power of social influence, we can use it to our advantage in creating lasting behavior change. Remember, building good habits is a process, and it takes time and consistency. But with the right mindset and strategies, you can achieve your goals and become the person you want to be. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Also, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the thumb if you like our video. Take care.